Hello my friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're doing something that's one of those maintenance things. Every few weeks I have to do it because it's important. We use it a lot and it matters to us. So we're doing homemade creme fraiche and we're doing homemade cultured butter. Now I always do them at the same time because they're very similar in their process and it works out beautifully. We're going to take out equipment, we're going to do these things, let's do them at the same time and we get on a rhythm. And that's important so that we're not, this week we make butter, next week we make creme fraiche, and we're constantly culturing dairy. That's a little bit of a pain. And I do culture my dairy in the proofer that I showed you a few weeks ago. It's a Broad & Taylor proof box. It's electronic. Now the reason I really like this particular item for culturing dairy is it allows me to set the temperature exactly. And my house has been extremely cold. In the summer, I don't need to use anything. I can leave it on the counter and we could have the air conditioning going full blast and the stupid stuff will still culture because it's hot. And that's just the reality. But in the winter, it is so cold that culturing on my counter is nearly impossible. So that causes me to have to find another option. And the proofing box is a great option. If you don't have one, no problem. You can put your cultures, and I'm going to show you how to do everything, so don't worry, but you can do them in your oven, put them on a tray so they're easy to get in and out. Maybe they wouldn't be. I'm clumsy. I'd spill it everywhere. Look, you've worked that part out. But you put it in the oven with the light on, and that will give you that controlled temperature. That might also work in one of those over the stove microwaves. When you put the light on in those things, the light that shines on the stovetop, it heats them up just beautifully. When we were in Florida, I proofed all my bread in that, and I was so devastated when we moved and I had to actually find a plan B. I don't even know if those exist anymore. That was 150 million years ago. So we're going to make cultured butter, cultured creme fraiche, and you're going to love having it on hand. And once you do, you're never going to want to run out. Let's do it. So we're going to start the ferment. So what we're using, this is the brand we're using, this is heavy cream. But what's important is that it is low temperature pasteurized. You see on top, it does not say ultra pasteurized. You cannot use ultra pasteurized. This will not work. Okay? So I just wanted to be very, very clear about that. I get the low temperature pasteurized heavy cream, milk, all the different dairies that I use when I'm doing something like this from Whole Foods. Now I like to put my culture at the bottom. It just makes it easier to make sure that we're mixing all the way through. Look how gorgeous this cream is. So by putting it at the bottom, we make sure that we're getting a really good mix. Because when we stir this, we want to stir it gently. What we don't want to do is whip it. Okay. So very gently, we're just giving this a nice stir. And this is going to sit at room temperature. And you'll know it's done when it is thickened. You're going to be able to smell that it's taken on a tangy aroma, and the flavor that it's going to leave on our butter is just outstanding. Okay, so we're going to cover that, but I'm going to set that right there. And now we're going to move on to our creme fraiche. Creme fraiche is just like a fancy version of sour cream. The beauty of creme fraiche, though, is that it doesn't break. So have you ever added sour cream to finish a sauce, and then you end up with those little white floating, little white bits, and your sour cream broke, and it ruins everything? Creme fraiche doesn't do that. It's a very luxurious flavor. It's got a beautiful tang, and it can handle heat. As a side note, if that should ever happen to you, if you run it through a fine sieve, if your sauce breaks like that with, from sour cream, run it through a sieve. You'll get all those pieces out and you'll be able to rescue your sauce. Okay, so now I'm going to make, we go through a lot of creme fraiche around here, so I'm actually going to double the recipe. The recipe calls for 1 cup of the heavy cream. I'm actually going to use 2, and you'll see where we go. Okay, so now we're going to work on our creme fraiche. And while the ingredients are very similar, the proportions are different and they will yield a different result. So we're going to make a lot. I like to use a quart. Very commonly, you'll see it. Very commonly, you'll see this. That's 2. So we need 4 tablespoons. So it's twice the amount of the cultured buttermilk. Very commonly, you see this made in an 8-ounce amount, but we go through it so quickly that I make it by the quart. So it's the exact same ingredients, just double the amount of culture. And you're going to see the difference is going to be significant because this is going to be very, very thick. So here we have 2 tablespoons of cultured buttermilk into a quart of heavy cream. Here we have 4 tablespoons of cultured buttermilk into a quart of heavy cream. We've got our labels. We've got our time. I'm going to cover these and I'll be right back and I'll show you. So we want to make sure that our cultures can breathe. These are going to sit at room temperature. So I just take a paper towel, fold it in half, and I hold it on with a rubber band. Nothing fancy at all. This is about as low tech as you get, but you end up with an incredible result. We start checking at 12 hours, and these can go as long as 24. Okay, so that's why we monitor our time. So we'll be checking these tomorrow morning at 8:15 a.m. And the longest they should be going is 8:15 p.m. Once our cultures were done and we had determined that they had cultured enough, in our case it took 24 hours for both of them to culture, we take them and we move them both to the fridge for 24 hours. That stops the ferment and it gets everything set beautifully. So everything thickens up just a little more when it's chilled. That's an important part of the process, and then we move on to the next step. Okay, now I showed you how to culture the crème fraîche. And just in case you forget, I do have the printable with all the directions, the measurements, everything you need. It will be linked below the video. This cultured, I timed it, this cultured for 24 hours. As it gets warmer in your environment, that time will drop. Okay, now I go through a lot of crème fraîche. Now the beauty of crème fraîche, I probably already said this, I'm filming out of order, is that it doesn't break. It handles cooking beautifully. It's got an amazing flavor. You can bake with it. It's like a very, very fancy cream cheese. It's not cream cheese. It's a very fancy sour cream. It's thicker. It's tangier. It has a more beautiful flavor. It has a more beautiful texture. It makes me happy. And I hope you love it. Please try it if you've not. But look at this. Now you saw what I poured into here. Look at what it becomes. That is cultured crème fraîche. And it is the most beautiful. Oh, I absolutely adore this stuff. So now I made a quart. I do not store it that way. I get these 1-pound containers on Amazon, and we run them through the dishwasher. When they get stained and they've had enough, we're able to get rid of them, but we have them for such a long time that they're actually worth it to us. And we use them. I don't love plastics. I'm perfectly honest about that. But some things you need that seal. Okay, and this is one of those things. So obviously 2 pints goes into a quart, and so we separate it. Look at that. I mean, it's so beautiful. Oh, really nice batch. And this will store in your fridge for a couple of weeks. And that's how often we make this. So it's important. Once you have it, you'll never want to be without it. And there's no effort. You just kind of set it and forget it. You set your timer, you come back to it the next day, and you end up with something that's absolutely glorious. I mean, it's on a baked potato, great. When you're baking, great. When you just want to have a little with scones with honey, everything. And then of course my very favorite thing is to finish sauces. This is so good. Perhaps you've heard of beef stroganoff, and at the end of the dish, it's finished with a little bit of sour cream. But you have to be careful if the sauce is too hot. It wouldn't be a day in my kitchen if I didn't drop something on the floor, honestly. I'm not bending down to pick that up. I will send a child. Okay, so we just snap this shut and we just burp it. Make sure there's no air. And you see it indents. And that makes sure we have no air in here. Now I've got to grab another one. I'm not good. I'm not bending down. I'm not built for bending today. Tomorrow's not looking great either. We burp it, we label it, and it gets used up. But you'll never want to be without it. It is absolutely delicious. Yes, I'm having a hot flash. I'm going to pretend if you pretend. I've had a few people get annoyed with me for being honest about it. I'm sorry, but here I share food and truth. And sometimes food and truth come together at the same time when you're cooking and having a hot flash. I'm very sorry. Okay, but now, the big thing. Cultured butter. Now you saw me make that process. It was the same, but we end up with a different result because we started with a different amount of culture. Now, American butter tends to be a sweet butter. It's not tangy. It's just sweet. You add a little bit of salt if you want salted butter, which I do. You know, a lot of people, you know, they have two separate butters. They have the sweet butter and they have the salted butter. We always have the two. We always lean towards the salted. I don't even know why I buy sweet butter anymore. I don't know. It's out of habit mostly. I use it for baking and I use it for mounting in sauces. But for the most part, I'd be perfectly fine working with salted butter. It's just a habit. If you don't have room, if room is an issue and you're able to buy butter in bulk, buy it in bulk, buy salted and keep it in your freezer. But this is special butter. And for example, you see something labeled European style butter. Not only is it a higher fat, but it's also most of the time cultured. And what that means is it's got that little bit of a tanginess. The flavor is, how do I describe this? It's beautiful. It's just got a little more depth. It's definitely not just a one note of butter. Now, butter tastes good no matter what. I mean, you could put butter on a flip-flop and you will still enjoy that flip-flop. I mean, at least till you get to the end of the butter. But something about that little bit of culture, that tanginess that is brought to it, matures that flavor, and it's just beautiful. And even on something as simple as sourdough toast, going all the way up to finishing your sauces, everything is more beautiful. And for the little bit of effort, why not? So next I'm going to grab my cultured butter, that's my cultured cream, and we're going to turn it into butter. I'll be right back. I forgot one of the key things. I use a Sharpie. This works out well because it does come off of these containers. So I just write what this is. It's Crème Fraîche. And the date. Everything we label and we put into our refrigerator or freezer is always dated. I don't like to play that game where something is not labeled, it's not dated, and for all I know, there's Rosemary's Baby in my freezer. I don't enjoy that game. Okay, so I'm going to put this in this. So we did the crème fraîche, and it's fabulous. And look, I mean, that really took it out of the fridge, portioned it off, sealed it, and labeled it. It doesn't get any easier than that after the culture is complete. But always remember, we use our cards, tape, whatever works. Just make sure you don't confuse them. That's unpleasant. Okay, so now here is our gorgeous culture. Oh. See? Started out as low temperature, pasteurized heavy cream, and cultured buttermilk, and you end up with this gorgeousness. Now, to turn this, the minute I stirred it, the smell went up into my face, and it's absolutely fabulous. So now what we're going to do, you have several methods that you can use to turn this into butter. We're going to use the food processor. It also works beautifully in a standing mixer. It works great if you have one of those amazing butter churns that I keep dreaming about, and I keep saying one of these days I'm going to get a real antique butter churn. And then I see the price, and I remember that I'm not independently wealthy and I don't have an antique butter churn. Okay, but if you happen to have one, they're incredible. I mean, so romantic, light candles, I think I'm romanticizing that wrong. Okay, forget that. Anyhow, you can even do it by separating this into two, putting it in a mason jar and just shaking it. I think I would really rather lick the grass than actually stand there and shake it to make butter. I can't bring myself to do that anymore. Those days are behind me. I tried to pawn it off on my kids. They laughed at me and left. I took it personally, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, so there's all the different ways, because what we're trying to do is separate our fat from the whey. And the whey is going to naturally separate, and you're going to hear it, you're going to see it, it's just going to start to splash. Have you ever made whipped cream and you turned your head for just a moment, and when you look back, it was all curdled, and you're like, I ruined it. What you accidentally made was butter. Now, if you take it further, the clumps stick together more, and you would have gotten the full yield. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera over to the food processor, and we're going to make butter. Now, you want to have a station set though. Ordinarily, I would do this in the sink, but I don't have a good way to film the sink. So I've got a bowl full of very cold water, and I've got a container. Oh, the containers, by the way, they come in a pint and a quart. We always have them both. We use them to bits. So, I'm standing here and I feel guilty for using plastic. I do. But I haven't found a solution that really replaces this very well. And even when they're just not nice anymore to be used, I use them out in the garden. I mean, we use these things until there's nothing left. I don't know if that helps, but it's true. Okay, anyway, so we have ice ready to go into your butter, because what you want to do as we start to knead the butter to get any of the whey out, you want to make sure that your butter is chilling, and your little hot hands are going to melt it instead of making it solidify and become beautiful butter. So you want to make sure that you're ready to go with very cold water and ice. Okay, and then you need another bowl that you're going to, when the process is over, we're going to strain out that liquid that's literally buttermilk. And I like to put that in a container and save it, because it's great when you make bread. It is fantastic. All you have to do is replace the water in your recipe with the whey that you released, and you'll end up with such a beautiful flavor. Fantastic, no waste. My favorite thing. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the camera and we'll go over here. Okay, so we're gonna just transfer our cultured cream, which is so beautifully cultured, it's actually almost sticky. It's fantastic. Now, yes, you want to use a rubber scraper to get the last of it out. Don't waste it. I'm not going to make you sit there and watch that. Hang on. We're going to turn it on, and we're going to just keep an eye on it. Don't walk away. Okay, here we go. We're waiting for a sound. Take another look. Okay, now you're going to see this time, you're going to start to be able to see some texture. Do you see that? That's the fat just starting to separate. We're getting there. Can you imagine having to shake that with your hands? We're almost at butter. The clump of butter start to move around by itself. See that? There it goes. We're almost, we're just about there. Let's have a look. Nope. A little more. Oh, you are lovely. Almost. We're so close. I dripped. I dripped. Look at butter. Isn't it beautiful? Absolutely. We're going to pour off rubber scraper to get every bit. Make sure that this is lifted from the bowl. and we're going to drain this. Now we're not going to push through. We don't want to lose our butter or get our butter trapped in the strainer. I'm just moving it around just a little bit, very gently, with the rubber spatula, and I'm bringing it together into a clump. And that's helping me release some of that buttermilk. Just that little bit of pressing. Okay? Let that drain for about 5 minutes, and then we'll go on to the next step. I like to just do this, and it moves, turns the butter around. You see that beautiful, look at that. It's absolutely beautiful, but that helps release the buttermilk. Now, the next step is called washing the butter, and it's very important. Leaving the buttermilk in will cause your butter to spoil much sooner than it would if you had taken the time to wash it. And when I say wash it, you want to keep washing it and draining it and washing it and draining it until the water runs clear. Okay, but I'm going to show you. But I like this little process. It helps me form my butter. It's not all over my hands, which we all know from the last time. Sticky things on my hands drive me crazy. But look at that. Absolutely magnificent. This will be in pancakes by morning. Okay, so I'm going to set up for the washing and we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got our ice water here, and I very gently, because it's not fully solidified yet, very, very clean hands, we're going to press. Now, because the butter is nice and cold, let me move this way. Because the butter is nice and cold, oh, that is extreme, that water is cold. You see how cloudy the water got right away, but it also keeps the butter from melting from my handling it. And we're going to handle it, squeeze it to release any of that white liquid, the buttermilk, grab any of the butter that's floating, and we're going to keep doing that. It is really cold. You can pick it up again, squeeze, fold, fold, drop. And we're going to keep doing that. Then we're going to change our water out, and we're going to keep doing this until the water remains clear. We want to press down and push any liquid that is still inside our butter out. The butter is so cold that it's actually much easier to handle now than it was when we started. Any butter that's floating, don't worry about it. We're going to gather it. No butter will be left. No butter left behind. I'm using a spatula because it is so cold that my hands are not enjoying it. But as long as you're getting all that buttermilk out, it works. Okay, so now I'm going to change the water and we'll be right back. Fresh, clean water. A little bit of butter at the bottom of the bowl, that's fine. And we're going to keep this process going until there is clear water, even after we're done pressing. I've pressed it enough times now that there's very little white coming out now. So we're very close. Once we're sure that we've gotten as much of the buttermilk out as we can, which we're pretty much there. I'm going to rinse it. I'm going to change the water one more time just to be sure. Then we decide if you want sweet butter or salted butter. I am making salted butter. To this amount, I add a half a teaspoon of fine sea salt. You can get something called butter paddles, which makes this process pretty cute, actually. They do the same thing my hands and this spatula are doing, but they do it with style. Okay, we're going to change the water one more time, and when we come back, we're going to add our salt. I take high quality paper towel. This doesn't work with the cheap stuff. Ask me how I know. And I just very gently gather up any liquid that's left. And I press it out. See? Easy peasy. Now, we want to make sure that our butter is flat like this because we're going to add salt. So I press it out with my paper towel on a shallow bowl, just like that. Today I'm using Redmond's real salt, half a teaspoon. And we're going to knead by folding our salt in so that it spreads and every bit of butter has the same amount of salt. Any liquid that is released will start to pool at the bottom, and with the paper towel, or if you just happen to see, like I see a little bit right there, just pick it up. It's just easier than any other way I've tried. And we just keep doing this until we're positive that we have worked through all of our salt. Now, using the Redmond's real salt makes it a little easier because you can see the little speckles. You know, the Redmond's real salt has a little bit of color in it from the minerals. And that's like a little bit of a cheat code because it allows you to see those speckles, so you can tell if you've got a spot that has no speckles and a spot that has a whole bunch, then you know your salt hasn't spread enough. See? So when I feel like I'm seeing even spreading, I fold it back in on itself, and I'm going to press it out one more time. You can use cheesecloth for this, which is very, very nice. You can use a, what do you call those things? A coffee filter. That works great too. You just want to squeeze out any liquid that's left. You want it just to be butter and salt, nothing left. We'll be right back. We've got our beautiful butter. It smells incredible. Cultured butter. And that just holds it shut. We've got the most beautiful cultured butter, and we've got creme fraiche. Let's weigh it. Let's see what we got. See what we got. 13.2 ounces of incredible butter. This would have cost a fortune. It is fabulous. It is worth your time. The creme fraiche is incredible. Let's grab it. I'd say that that is some time really well spent in our kitchen. And here we are. We've got over 13 ounces of cultured butter. We've got 2 pints of creme fraiche, and we've got a whole pint of real buttermilk. How can you go wrong with something that took so little effort? You're going to be delighted to have this in your fridge. You can freeze the butter. It's absolutely incredible. I hope you love this. I hope you try it. I'd love to know what you think. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I love you so much. I'll see you next time.